And I'm just talking, and nobody really thinks this happens. And then everybody just starts talking about it. And we go back and look at a couple of other movies. And you thought Clint Eastwood was calm, was wise, was beyond the reach of anyone. But you saw this performance and you thought he was calm, was wise, was beyond the reach of anyone. But you're wrong. At 95, the man finally took off his mask and let everyone see a side of him that was darker than anyone had ever thought possible. His naming stars who let him down in his darkest hours. He was beside him in their fame, in their glory, but he'd stab him in the back. And you'll see why Clint Eastwood has not forgived. Number 1. Leonardo DiCaprio, the golden boy. Clint Eastwood has not forgived. What in the world would cause Clint Eastwood to walk off his own film set? The answer is Leonardo DiCaprio. J. Edgar had begun filming in 2010, and nobody thought this was just a great combination. The calmest guy in Hollywood, the most intense actor in Hollywood. But sources say this was a haunting experience for both of them. At every turn, DiCaprio had folders of research, pages of history, even FBI files highlighted. Clint's patience was gone in 2 minutes. He came in like a man trying to solve a puzzle. He came in like a man trying to solve me. Clint had joked once, which I wasn't there for. But what was back of the joke was irritation. And irritation was growing in him. Then came the breaking points, the breakdown scene. Leo was perfect. The very first time. Real, raw, perfect. The entire crew was frozen. Clint muttered something. Perfect. Cut. But Leo wanted more and more. And by the 6th, Clint was no longer in front of the camera. He was against the craft services table, coffee cup in hand, stone-faced. Someone asked him if he's all right. He just shook his head. He's still searching for something I already found. The end of the shoot was just silence. Clint's kind of silence. Then casting sessions for other projects would go the same way. His name came up. Clint simply shook his head. Great actor, but not his kind of guy. He never worked with him, shared a stage, exchanged a word. He won his Oscar years later, but not a call from Eastwood. Because for Clint, perfection is never doing it again. It's about doing it once and never wasting another second. Number 2, Michael Moore, the man who pushed Clint too far. When Michael Moore compared American Sniper director Clint Eastwood's movie to propaganda used by the Nazis, he may have taken his life, their friendship. Clint was standing there. He didn't raise his voice. He could have told Moore exactly where to go, but he simply tuned him out, and tuned him out, and tuned him out, and then tuned
him out. To understand the Feud, you have to understand who Clint Eastwood is. He's an old-school man of discipline and honor. Michael Moore's films, like his Fahrenheit 9/11, came off like grandstanding. He's no fan of soldiers. They're soldiers, and they're not his concern. I see soldiers as pawns. I see heroes, Eastwood has told friends. Respect. And then almost 8 years later, after American Sniper's release, when Clint tweeted, "American Sniper reminded me of Nazi snipper and inglorious bastards," Moore tweeted back, "Here. My grandfather had this movie. Here." He was only joking, of course. Or so he claimed. But his people claim Clint Eastwood was livid. Moore's name has not existed within Eastwood circles since then. Eastwood works both sides of the aisle. He merely doesn't like those who dishonor our soldiers. To Clint Eastwood, he only dishonored his own life. He doesn't forget an insult. One of Clint's collaborators showed me. He erases it. And that's exactly what he did. Since then, you can't say Mike Moore within range of Clint Eastwood if you want the discussion to continue. Number 3, Barbra Streisand, the perfectionist who provoked the cowboy. There is one name that Clint Eastwood will not speak when asked during an interview. And one name that, after 9 decades within the industry, Clint Eastwood's face still pinches at merely hearing. And that name is Barbra Streisand. It began in the early 1980s when both were breaking into directing, having started as actors. Streisand was the queen of control. 40, 50, or 60 takes just for one look. Clint worked in reverse. 2 takes, then move on. He had been heard saying, "If it's not real the first time, it's not worth filming." To Clint, Barbra Streisand represented everything he hated in the new Hollywood: control, egocentricity, and overthinking. By the early 1990s, their differing philosophical approaches to filmmaking had turned into outright contempt. When The Prince of Tides failed to score Streisand her Best Director Oscar in 1992, Clint was heard telling a pal that perhaps if she could make up her mind more quickly, she might have more than 3 projects under her belt in 15 years. This grapevine spread fast. Then came Bridges of Madison County the movie which blew apart what little remained of their friendship. Streisand had committed to direct, but after so many years of waffling, she split. Clint swooped in and wrote the whole thing over himself, ending up with an emotionally profound masterpiece. Maya Street went on to earn an Oscar nomination for Maya. Clint earned revenge without saying a word. Since then, they have never spoken. To Clint, she embodied everything he hated about filmmaking: hesitation, control, and the loss of instinct. To Clint's code, you take the shot once, and that's it. Not 50 times. Number 4 Tommy Lee Jones, the Clint that no alpha could tame. Day 1 Tommy Lee Jones appeared on the set of in the line of fired It is 1993 when Clint supposedly turned to a person on his staff and said, "2 bulls in the same pen. This will never last." And he was right. At first, everyone had picked Streisand as the perfect woman for Clint. But behind the scenes, theirs was no love match. Jones was no man for subtle directing. Clint would just stand there like, "What are you doing?" The tension built to a fever pitch during an intense confrontation scene. Jones was looming over Clint, completely in character, dripping invective with every word. "Cut!" yelled the director. Jones ignored them, his glare drilling into Eastwood's eyeballs. The entire crew froze. After an awkward silence, Clint whispered to his assistant, "Life's just too short for that kind of acting." And then he just walked off the set. After that, the choice was made. When casting directors approached Eastwood suggesting Jones for his upcoming productions, Clint didn't even blink. "He's a fantastic actor," he would say. "We just speak different languages." That translates to never again. Neither have they been on a panel together nor spoken about each other in interviews. There's only room for one egotist in Eastwood's world. And that would never again happen either. Number 5, Richard Burton, aka the drunk who drifted Clint to the brink of sanity. Richard Burton pushed Clint Eastwood to absolute limits of sanity on the location of Where Eagles Dare in 1968. This time, though, it had absolutely nothing to do with ego or star power. This was all about work ethic, and lack thereof by some. The Welsh actor would arrive late on set, mumble his lines through a haze of drink, and reek of last night's booze. Clint would just stand there in his full pre-production gear and glare in complete disgust. One member of the team insists that water dripped like sweat from Eastwood's face in view of Clay's frustrated performances. "It was like watching a loveless marriage fall apart," said someone on set. Every night was an excuse to go to a bar. Every day cost them all. We all have to pay for last night every morning. Although Clint didn't yell back at Guy or harangue Guy about punctuality or lines or personal hygiene, Guy knew he'd been told off. After Guy messed up a line 10 times on location, Guy growled into his sandwich. The rumor went that he was getting paid by picture, not by hour. The rest of us on location snickered in nervous recognition. Guy just scowled. The message sunk home. The last straw occurred on location when Guy was caught referring to Where Eagles Dare on set as a paychecking job. That would never go down well in Eastwood's world either. He believed every project needed all of Guy's zeal and passion and commitment. Even Where Eagles Dare would require Guy's fullest passion. Later in life, when asked to speak about Guy's acting ability,